For this lesson, you need to open the sample file Headcount and Salaries 1 from your sample files folder. I'll just begin this lesson by minimizing the ribbon by double-clicking on any ribbon tab, and if I scroll down a couple of rows, you'll be able to see nearly all of the worksheet. In this lesson, you're going to use the SUMIF and COUNTIF functions to list the total salary and headcount for each department, along with the total salary and headcount for each gender. So let's first begin by computing the salary by department. So I click in cell B21 and I want to use a SUMIF function. So I click Formulas on the ribbon. I know that the SUMIF function is in the Math and Trig group. So I'll click Math and Trig, and there's the SUMIF function. The first argument for the SUMIF function is the range. In other words, where am I going to look for the word sales? Well, I'm going to look in cells D4 to D17. I'm now going to make that reference absolute by pressing the F4 key so that I'll be able to autofill this function later on. Absolute and relative cell references were covered in depth in lesson 312 of the Essential Skills video in this series. Next is criteria. What is it I want to look for in column D? Well, I want to look for the word sales, so I'll click on cell A21. And finally, the sum range. When I find the word sales in column D, which is the cell that I want to sum? Well, I want to sum the salaries, so I'll click in sum range and I'll select cells C4 to C17, and once again I'll press F4 to make that reference absolute, so I'll be able to autofill it in a moment. When I click OK, I can see that the total salary for the sales department is $179,898, and now I'll autofill that so I can see the salaries for purchasing and logistics. And notice that the number in cell B24 is the same as the total in cell C18, proving the integrity of the calculation. Now let's move on to headcount. We're going to work this out in a similar way using the COUNTIF function. So I'll click in cell C21, then Formulas on the ribbon. This time it's in the More Functions category, and within More Functions it's in the Statistical subgroup. Let's look for the COUNTIF function, and there it is. The COUNTIF function only has two parameters. First of all, the range. Where am I going to look for the word sales? Well, it's the same as before. Cells D4 to D17. And just as before, I'll press F4 to make that reference absolute. And the criteria, what am I going to look for in column D? Well, I'm going to look for the word sales, so I'll click on Sales. I'll then click OK, and I can see that I have 6 employees in my sales department. And if I autofill that formula, I can see that I also have 5 employees in the purchasing department and 3 in the logistics department, a total of 14 employees. Let's move on now to gender. I want the salary for all my male employees in cell B27. So I'll click in cell B27. This is going to be a SUMIF function, just as before. So Formulas, Math and Trig, and SUMIF. First of all, the range. Where am I going to look for the letter M for gender? Well, I'm going to look in column B, so I select B4 to B17, and I'll press F4 to make that absolute. Criteria. What am I going to look for in column B? Well, it'll be the letter M for male, so I'll click in cell A27. And finally, what is it I'm going to add up when I find a male employee? Well, it's going to be their salary, so I'll select C4 to C17, and once again I'll press F4 to make the range absolute, so that I'll be able to autofill this formula later. I click OK, and I can see that the salary for male employees is $253,587. And if I autofill down, I can also see the salary for female employees. And notice that the value in cell B29 matches the value in cell B24 and in C18, once again proving the integrity of the calculation. Now let's look at the headcount for male employees. So I'll click in cell C27. I'm going to use a COUNTIF function as before, so that's formulas on the ribbon, function library, more functions, statistical, and the COUNTIF function is there. Now let's look at the range for the COUNTIF. What is it I'm going to look for male in? Well, it's the values in column B. So I'll select those and I'll press F4 to make the range absolute. Now the criteria. What is it I'm going to look for in column B? Well, it's going to be the letter M. So I click on M, click OK, and I can see that I have 9 male employees. And if I autofill that formula, I can see that I have 5 female employees. And if I look at the value in cell C29, 14 employees in total, that matches the number in cell C24. So it proves the integrity of the calculation. Well, all that remains for this lesson is to save your work. And I'm going to save with the new name Headcount and Salaries 2. And as usual, I'll save to the folder above, my sample files folder. I click the Save button, and you've now completed Lesson 3.6. Use the SUMIF and COUNTIF functions to create conditional totals.